Everybody, welcome back to the channel. Another walk around for you. Cat D2 and a 5U, much like mine. We'll see what the number is on this one. We have a 5U 10,382. So, without my book handy, I'm guessing it's 1952. Let's check that. Few things I noticed right off the bat. Seems to have a pretty stand-up undercarriage on it, 16-inch wide track pads. Let's see what we can see through the dirt here. Rails are looking, I'd say, fair yet. I'd say they're a solid 50% plus good. We're not saying 50% plus worn, we're saying 50% plus to the good, but without putting a gauge on there, it's pretty hard to tell. Sprockets look just about brand new on the thing. Bottom rollers, from what I can see, don't look bad. Up here and have a look. Front idlers are fat. Wow. Hard to say if they've been built up or not. I think they're not been built up yet. I think they're pretty much factory from what you can see through the mud. Another interesting thing to note, this has the larger front idlers on it. Go over here and see if we can maybe see a little bit more idler and a little bit less mud. No, pretty much the same on this side. But anyway, these were a little bit bigger, so that at the base of the idler, it basically put the track down on the ground right away. My D2 has the smaller egg style idlers. They're basically 1.5 inches higher than the lower track rollers. So you have to wait until the track gets underneath that first roller before the machine is actually exerting pressure on the ground. That makes them even more rocking horse legs. So these larger front idlers did add some stability to a degree. It's still a pretty short track base, but blade on this one, I'm going back and forth on it. I'm thinking it's home built, but if it's home built, they did a pretty stand-up job. Awesome welds on the thing. It's clean, but it's not like any manufacturer I've ever seen. There's no tags on it. They didn't usually go with mold boards that are like that. They were usually a bit more reinforced, but it's patterned very similar to a D2 toolbar setup, where the brackets were about the same size. The cylinder was in the same place, kind of a smaller cylinder. The only difference in a factory toolbar setup is these pivot points were hinged so that you could actually, and it didn't have a solid C-frame either, it just had a straight arm that came up each side, pinned to the blade, and you could unpin it from the blade and swing that arm around to the back. And then there was rear mounted tillage equipment could also be used. That's why they called it a toolbar. You could pivot it around to be used at the front or at the back. This is just a solid fixed C-frame, but it's an angle blade. See attachment points for their braces. Right now it's in the straight ahead position. So if somebody built that, they did a pretty good job. Same on this side over here. They're using a Vickers vane pump for live hydraulic power. Coincidentally, that's the same style pump that I had on the old 5J2115, my grandpa's old cat. Did pretty good, but it's definitely more well suited for these smaller, more modern hydraulic cylinders that required less flow but more pressure. The original cat setups relied on high flow and low pressure, and that's why they had larger cylinders. Here's their control. Raise and lower the blade all through that one lever right there. Looks like they got a little bit of a catch rag for their overflow. Probably when it vents on the return stroke, it might push a little bit out. Gear driven generator like mine, regulator in the same place. And I like their fuel shut off for the starting engine. Cheap but effective, right? They have a pre-filter on there, which is always a good idea. Catches any crud that might be in the tank from getting into that problematic little dirt trap of a carburetor these things had on them. Undercarriage condition looks much the same on this side from what you can see. Hood's in nice shape, fenders are in nice shape. C-tank is in nice shape, not a dent to be found. Old guide light on the side with the mesh covering the glass. And this has the slightly newer style block font. Now that would not have been original to this machine, but it was pretty common back in the day when these got traded in at the cat dealer they would kind of refurbish them, rebuild as needed, repaint, and then they would replace the old style decals with the newer style. So that this thing's probably been reconditioned by a cat dealer at one time, being that it has the newer style block Caterpillar. You can see where the D2 used to be. And this one also has the PTO. Almost every one of these I've been finding lately has the PTO, and you know what? I've never been able to buy one that had one. I don't know what's working there. Apparently I bought all the ones that did not have the PTO on, huh? Factory toolbox still on the fender. This fender's looking pretty good too. So it's left of the battery box. See, this one looks like a light switch on the battery box, which some of them did. Mine has the light switch up here on the dash. Yeah, and you can tell where the holes are where the light switch used to be. That's where the dash light used to be. So I think at some point they relocated it to the battery box, which is probably more convenient. Operator's area. Everything's pretty much standard in here. Electric start on the pony motor. Control layouts are all in basically the same place as mine. Compression release is the same. You got your auxiliary diesel throttle lever for starting purposes. Relocates it from the air cleaner up here. Mine also had that. Some of the earlier 5Us did not have this little handle here, but they did have the lever. Just one of those things they found to make life easier for the operator. Engine side panels in place yet. And he was out dozing with this thing yesterday. It sounded pretty good. He was moving a fair amount of material back here. They got a little gravel pit area set up. He was pushing stuff closer for the drag line so he could reach it. Had a pretty good bark to it as well with this this pipe that comes up and the angles off to the side a little bit. Mine goes straight up in the air and you lose a little bit of that. With this coming out the side, she had a pretty good cackle yesterday. It sounded pretty good. I think that pretty much concludes the walk around of this one. Thanks for watching, everybody.